Today in Core Java, we are going to discuss IO streams topic. IO streams topic. This IO streams topic are related all the classes exist in java.io package. Until before the IO streams like exceptions, threads, wrapper classes, string buffer and string builder classes. The next java.lang essential classes like object, system, process, runtime. All those classes exist in java.lang package, and almost more than nearly half of the Java API classes exist in java.lang up to threads. And after threads, we deal with IO streams, networking, collections. Those topics, related classes exist outside the java.lang package. IO stream classes exist in java.io package. Networking class exists in java.net package. Collection class exists in java.ut package, like that. Okay, from hereafter, the classes outside the java.lang package we are discussing. So, why do we need this IO streams topic? How essential IO streams topic is? Is such a topic exist in other programming languages also, like in C or C++, Python, PHP, C Sharp, isn't it? These are our um, neighbor languages, coexisting languages. So along with Java, these languages are also used in the market. So is really this IO streams topic exist in other languages also? But I have a simple question. Do you find any programming language which is not having an option to read from the standard input and to write on the standard output? Is there any language that exists without read and write from standard input and standard output? No. Is there any programming language exist that doesn't contain reading and writing onto files, reading from files and writing onto files? No. We don't compare programming languages with scripting languages like JavaScript, JScript, VBScript, and those languages, including ActionScript and TypeScript. They are related to web programming. And with those languages, if you develop applications, they will run on the browser. So no scripting language, ActionScript and TypeScript if you take. Those ActionScript and TypeScript are object-oriented programming languages. JavaScript, VBScript, these languages are procedural languages. ActionScript, TypeScript are object-oriented programming languages. But though they are object-oriented programming languages, they are having all the features except having an option to read and write from files. Because the languages which are used in the web application, especially the code running on the browser, cannot have an access to access local file system resources, reading from local file and writing onto local file. They'll come from the remote machine, lands onto the client's machine's browser, they runs the logic and just sends a request back to server. So not all the programming languages which are used in web application are not having these standard input and standard output or reading from file and writing onto file, these features. But you take standalone programming languages, especially standard programming languages. C is a standard programming language. C++ is a standalone programming language. With Java, with Python, with PHP, with C Sharp, we can develop standalone applications, non-graph user interface applications, graph user interface applications, web applications, networking applications, distributed applications, interoperable applications, mobile applications. See, with these programming languages, we can develop these many 8 different varieties of applications: standalone, non-graph user interface, graph user interface applications, web applications, um, the next web applications, next distributed applications, interoperable applications, the next mobile applications, networking applications. Some 7, 8 varieties of applications we can develop using these languages. Hmm. So all these languages, C, C sharp, Java, the next Python, PHP, C sharp. All these languages are having option to read from the standard input to write onto standard output, to read from the file to write onto the file, to read from the socket to write onto the socket. Socket programming we can do. Socket programming we can do from C, C++, Java, C sharp. In every programming language, socket programming API is available. So reading from the socket, writing on the socket. And if you want to read data from the remote system in the network, and you want to write something onto the remote system on the network, so you use socket programming. So like that, all these programming languages are having option of reading from various sources and writing onto various destinations. So that related API exists in this iOS Teams topic, in this Java.io package. So here in the iOS Teams package, you will find one, two, three, four varieties of classes. In the iOS Teams topic, you will find four varieties of classes. What the four varieties of classes are? The four varieties of classes are four varieties of classes. What are the four varieties of classes if you ask me? Input stream, output stream subclasses, reader, writer subclasses. All these classes are used to read from various sources and write onto various destinations. Input output streams, reader writers. The next two, random access file. And with these input stream and output streams and reader writers, when you read data from the file, they are sequential streams. Similarly, Java is having a random access file ability also. So I like random access file to use in the place of database. If you want to develop an application, a standalone application, and wants to write data into the files and reading from the files, data which is not having much relationships between them, then instead of connecting to the database, we can write and read data going from the local file system. Say for example, daily attendance of the student, student marks, student contact details like email address and mobile number, that we want to use frequently in our daily routine. Okay, master data exists in the database, and every student data, email IDs and mobile numbers will keep in our local hard disk, and we always want to read from the hard disk. Mostly we want to use them for sending the mails and sending SMSs kind. In such cases, instead of retrieving all the time data from the database, you better read and write the data from the local file system. Then random access file will be useful very much. And this package is also having one more topic called the serialization and deserialization related classes. Serialization is one of the important topic in networking and distributed applications, where if generally in the network, we believe that only bytes of data will be. And if you give a string will convert into number of characters. Each character converts into its respective ASCII value. The ASCII value will be converted into binary value ones and zeros, and those ones and zeros. And if you write a string, it's ones and zero representations of data will go into the network. Sorry, getting my point. If you send string over the network, but sometimes if you want, because the applications are such a big applications, we always do objects, related job in our programming. So many times we want to send customer data, bank account data, or something payroll data, or employees profile data, like these kind of like a product catalog data or manufacturers data, distributors data. These data we structurally store into classes, and a class and its objects want to move over the network into other machines. Their objects want to be restored as is and want to be used over there. And if any changes made there, those changes should come back to our machine. Only object, its representation itself should go to the other system, and the object representation itself should come back to our machine. Then not only we always write and read strings over the network, we sometimes want to write and read objects to network also. So in such cases, this object serialization and deserialization topic is used. Anyway, that we'll discuss in the later parts. In the first part, we'll deal with only input output streams and how to read and write data from various files, that we'll see. And because as we said, mainly this IO streams topic deals with input output stream classes and read writer classes. First of all, we want to discuss about these 4 classes only. I wanted to know what are the difference between input output streams and read writers. Simple. We are having 2 varieties of character sets. One is ASCII character set. Second one is Unicode character set. Tell me, what is the ASCII character set range? 0 to 255. Am I right? 0 to 127, 128 to 255. This is ASCII range. 0 to 127, 128 to 255. This is ASCII range. It is 0 to 255 is ASCII range. What about Unicode range? 0 to 65,535. They altogether 65,536 characters. 0 to 65,535 is Unicode range. 0 to 255 is ASCII range. So in the ASCII range only English alphabets, small letter alphabets, capital alphabets, 0 to 9, and all the arithmetic and related, all the symbols, angular brackets, semicolons, commas, forward slash, backslash, tilde, caret, all apostrophe, single quotation, double quotation, plus symbol, and all operators, and all printable characters we use in programming language. They're all available within 0 to 127, and from 128 to 255 some non-printable characters exist. If you see the ASCII chart, you will come to know all the list of 0 to 255 characters. But it contains only English alphabets and numeric and some other symbols. But coming to the Unicode is a very big range. It is having a characters support of many international languages. So many Indian languages characters, Unicode has given one on Unicode value for English, for Telugu, Kannada, Tamil, Malayalam, Bengali, Marathi, Gujarati, Hindi, Devanagari, and so many languages, and to many Urdu, Arabic, Greek, Latin, Spanish, Dutch, Chinese, Japanese, all varieties of languages characters are having one ASCII value in the Unicode range. The Unicode is having such a character set that not only gives an value for ASCII range of characters, it will give a value for many international character sets. That is what the main advantage of Unicode is. So, a text which is having Unicode, which is having some international text like something like Spanish characters or Dutch characters or Telugu characters, and the data want to move from one location to another location. If you use Unicode, in Unicode supporting programming language, for each character, how many bytes of memory we are allocating? 2 bytes of memory. But whereas languages which are supporting ASCII range, in that the character size is only 1 byte. But in Java, the character size is 2 bytes. Why 2 bytes here? Because Java supports Unicode programming language. See, so immediately you will get it out. How 2 bytes of memory is allocated to one character that can store Unicode range of characters? See, 2 bytes of size for one character, 2 bytes of size for one character, first byte and second byte, 2 bytes of characters. Okay, 2 bytes, generally 2 bytes memory will be allocated, and for each character 2 bytes of memory is internally allocated. Fine. Which primitive data type in Java is having 2 bytes of memory? Byte is having 1 byte memory, short is having 2 bytes memory, int 4 bytes, long 8 bytes, short, float 4 bytes, double 8 bytes, char 2 bytes. So char and byte, char and short are having 2 bytes memory. So what is the range of short? Minus 32,768 to plus 32,767. there is a short range. Okay, if you declare any variable as a short, it can store values from 0 to minus 32,768 to 0 to plus 32,767. Altogether, if you count, it is 65,536. And in these 2 bytes of character memory, any ASCII value from 0 to 32,767, any character beyond 32,767, that means 32,768 or 32,760. Suppose if it is character above 32,767, if it is 32,768, it will be internally stored as minus 32,768. Suppose if the character is 32,769, it will internally store minus 32,767. And from the reverse, it will store the value up to minus 1. And a Unicode range of characters, Unicode value, can be stored in 2 bytes of memory. That is why in Java, a character occupies 2 bytes of memory. And many times, if in the programming language, if you use English alphabets, only 1 byte memory is sufficient to hold its ASCII value or Unicode value. Most of the times, the second half of the byte will be wasted for a normal English character. But if in the programming in the Java programming, if string wants to take any international characters, Unicode characters, then still the character database having capable to hold those international characters also. Okay? By keeping internationalized applications in mind, the char data type was designed in Java with 2 bytes of memory. Otherwise, 1 byte memory would be sufficient for to store ASCII range characters. So the ultimate discussion is between, because we are using input and output streams. So from where and all we'll read the data from, and where we'll write the data on to, we'll read the data from the keyboard, we'll read the data from file, we'll read data from the socket, we'll write onto monitor, we'll write onto file, we'll write onto socket. Generally, these are the sources from where we'll read the data. These are the destinations usually where we write onto the data. In the next slide somewhere here, I've shown reading from keyboard, writing onto monitor, reading from file, writing from file, writing into socket, reading from socket. Actually, I should use double arrow here. Reading into character array, writing from character array, writing onto character array, reading from byte array, writing onto byte array. See, these are various standard input, file, socket, character array, byte array. From these, we'll read the data. Monitor, file, socket, character array, byte array. These are the destinations where we write the data. So, sources and destinations are clear. So, input stream always reads data from various sources, and output stream always writes data onto various destinations, onto monitor, char array, byte array, socket, file, like that. So, but while reading and writing, the point is, because Java is having Unicode support, it doesn't mean that it doesn't support ASCII range, because isn't it 90% of the applications may in 90% of Java applications running across the world may use only English characters to store in the strings, and sometimes in wherever Java applications are running in France or Spanish or Germany, then their characters may be stored into, application is running in Java, but the characters stored inside those strings are German or Spanish or Dutch or Italian characters. But still, Java character database is having that capability to store any international character. So here the point is whether your input streams and output streams, whether are they want to read from the ASCII range streams, ASCII ranges, or is your input stream and output streams want to read and write from Unicode range streams. So from where you want to read from. So if your input and output, and if you're reading and writing, you perform only on ASCII range character based source and destinations, then you go for input stream and output stream. And if your source and destinations contains characters that are up to Unicode range, you use read and write. Simple. But see, don't prolong the discussion when to use reader and when to use writer. If you want to deal with ASCII range, go for what you call input output streams. If you want to deal with Unicode range, go for a reader and writers. So it's a simple. So that is what the difference between input output stream and reader writers. So here the same thing I have mentioned. Programming remains same, functions remain same, except classes, everything remains same. If you see the input output stream classes and reader classes, their internal, they read 1 byte for each character. Input output streams read and writes 1 byte for each character. Reader and writer space 2 bytes for each character. That is only the difference. So rest of programming, API, classes, everything remains same. So then this is the ASCII chart. 0 to 31, 32 to 63, 64 to 95, 96 to 126, then 127 here, delete. The next, these are all printable characters. All these characters we can recognize, right? At space, exclamation mark, double quotation, hash, hash, dollar, percentage, ampersand, all these symbols. Up to 0 to 128, till symbol, floor basis, etc. And from 128 to 255, if you take, these are all special characters, which are non-printable characters. We cannot see them on the keyboard, we cannot use them in the programming. So this whole 0 to 255 are called as ASCII range of characters. But the screen size is not sufficient to display the Unicode range of characters because of 65,536 character size. You can find Unicode characters on the internet. Unicode.org something site is there. There you can find all the Unicode characters. So this is the representation of what input stream does and what output stream does. Various sources from which we can read data are keyboard, standard input file, socket, byte array, character array, string, object, etc. Various destinations onto which we can write are monitor, standard output, file, socket, byte array, character array, string and object, etc. So hope after this is clear. The difference between input output stream and reader writers are clear. Input output streams deals with ASCII range characters. A reader and writers deals with Unicode range characters. That's it. Other than that, there is no other difference. Okay. The next coming to one of the most popular statement in the Java programming is system.out.println. First statement. And second less frequently used statement is system.in.read. System.out.println is used almost 90% of the applications, and little less often we use system.in.read also. But system.in.read may not be directly used, but it is used in combination with other statements also. So what is meant by system.in.read? When will we use it? See, for example, you are running a standalone application. I'm not talking about applications and other applications, because the keyboard you can access standard input, you can access only in the standalone applications. In the web applications, you will read data from the browser. In the distributed application, you will read data from other machines. They are also having standard input, but the standard input is not a keyboard. From the browser, from other systems, socket, those are the standard inputs for networking and web applications. I'm talking about standalone application. In standalone application, we use system.in.read. One small example I would like to give you on system.in.read. We are running a big standalone application, and that it is a non-graphical user interface application. If it is a graphical user interface application, whenever we want to exit from the application, you just simply click on the cross button that appears in the what you call title bar of the frame. There is a cross button, minimize, maximize buttons. If you click on the cross button, graphical user interface application will exit. But what is in the standalone application? A standalone application is running, a big application is running, and the application flow is going on. At a point of time or in regular intervals in the application, we want to ask the user, if you are interested to exit from the execution, please enter Y for yes, N for no. And in regular intervals, we'll ask the user, the application is running for hours long together, we want to ask user whether are you interested to exit from the application or you want to continue. If you press Y, you exit from the application. If you press no, you continue the application execution. So if a situation, if you want to erase, if you want to take a y or n from the standard input, based on that you want to change whether you want to continue the application or you want to terminate the application. So what you should ask is, you simply write system.in.read statement. System.in.read statement. I'll explain about what is system.in.read later on. See, this is a problem we face as a core Java faculty. This was the biggest challenge we face while teaching the Hello program. In Hello program, we'll explain what is class name, what is public static void main, and void main, string array, everything we'll discuss. Public static we can't discuss because they deals with access resource and modifiers. And the next system.out.println. No, we cannot explain what is system, what is out, what is println, because the student who is learning first application, the Hello program, he cannot understand what is system out and all that stuff. System.in.read, system.out.println. They don't have any knowledge, Right now we are a little bit okay to understand because we know static, we know object, we know how to access static members, we know how to access non-static members, we know how to create object, we know how to call non-static methods, we know how to call static methods. So we are little bit matured in object-oriented programming than compared to before, right? Now you can easily understand. If you write anything with a class name dot variable name, forget about this. In is an object reference of input stream or something. If you write something with class name dot variable name, what you should assume that variable is? Is it a static variable? You are 100% correct. And then system class, in is a static variable. Point number one. In system class, in is a static variable. Is it a variable of any primitive data type? No. It's not a primitive data type variable like byte, short, int, log, float, double, carable variable. It is an object reference of input stream class that points to your standard input keyboard. And in the system class, this in is an object reference of input stream class that by default points to your keyboard. That's why we are calling system.in. In the input stream class, there is one non-static method given called read. In the input stream class, we'll see all this stuff methods. In the input stream class, we'll see the method name called read. Whenever you call the read method, this read method will read only one single character from the keyboard. So, for example, in the key, whenever you write this system.in.read, the program execution will halt and it will stop, and it won't stop, it will halt to take the input from the user. There you enter user, there you enter some input. But how the system.in.read will come to know that the user has completed his entry, the input entry. So you type something and press enter key. The enter key indicates that the input given is completed, and whatever input you are giving, that is completed. So it will again comes back to the program for execution. So system.in.read statement, that statement executed. So it came to a situation where we are asked to enter some characters. So you enter Surya, but it won't take Surya because system.in.read can read only first character, only one character, that first character. It will read only S, remaining U or Y, A, it will ignore. Because the read method is capable of reading only one single character, not multiple characters. Only one single character. So that yes, so for the S, whatever the ASCII value exists. What is the ASCII value of capital letter S? The ASCII value of capital letter S is 83. And this system.in.read method will read. See, you see the system.in.read that statement, the read method in input stream class. Read method in input stream class returns integer. What is that integer? That integer is nothing but this capital letter has ASCII value 83. So 83 will be written here. What I entered and what I am getting, I entered Surya here. Okay, it is ignoring U or Y and it is reading only first character S. But what is this 83? 83 is nothing but that capital letter S ASCII value. So read method always returns the ASCII value of the read character. Even in the readers also, the read method will read and returns the Unicode value of the read character, but not the original character. So anyway, again if you type as that I into char data type, you will get the original character. But the read method says we are reading characters of ASCII or Unicode range. So our read methods will return their ASCII value or Unicode value, but not the character. Later on, if you are interested, you convert it into character and you print it. You use it, isn't it? Are you getting my point? With the written character, again to convert it into the ASCII value or Unicode value, again you need some conversions. So why do that headache? Let the int written typecast into character, you will get the original character. Otherwise, you use int as this in the applications. So hope this is clear. In input stream class, read is a non-static method. That is why you are calling object dot method. In the system class, in is a static object reference of input stream class. That is why we are calling system dot in. So this is how usual system dot in dot read operations. It reads the first character from the standard name. So you have written system dot in dot read. So the moment that statement encounters, the program will halt and wait for the user input. There you enter capital letter Y or small letter y, anyone, capital letter Y or small letter y. So what we'll do, we'll take int I and then we'll check if the I value is equal to. So what is a capital letter Y 89, small letter Y 89 and 121, 89 121, 89 I is equal to 121 or, and if the entered character is capital letter Y or small letter y, then what you do? You write system dot exit. Exit named one method is there in system class. System dot exit of 0. So program will normally terminate. Else there is no else condition. Else means you continue the program execution. So this is how we can use system dot in dot read to sometimes to determine whether a standalone program wanted to terminate its execution or it want to continue the execution. And it will use in many other occasions also. One of the example I have given. And how system.in.read is useful in the standalone applications. The same similar statement we use in C also. Do you know? When you run the C program on Turbo C8 or Borland C8, the moment you press some F9 or F10 something, if you press, the editor will run the C program, right? So you press F9 or F10 something, that one shortcut button if you press, it will compile and automatically runs the application. It will run the application. One command prompt screen will open. There the program output will display and immediately the command prompt will disappear. And if we don't get chance to see the output on the command prompt, immediately suddenly it will display the output and suddenly it goes off. Because the program execution is terminated, the screen will go off. But soon after displaying the output, if that command prompt screen want to appear until we press enter key, that the command prompt screen want to appear, then in the program what we'll do is we'll write get ch. Get ch or some get char, some statement, some function we'll use the C program. The moment the get char or get ch statement is encountered, the C program execution will halt. And the command prompt screen will halt. It will still appear. It won't disappear. So we can see the output of the application. You press any key, then the command prompt screen will exit. So even such a same similar system that in.read kind of statements are used in C++ applications also, using getchar and getch functions. Okay. Hope input stream is clear. The input stream class read method can read only characters up to ASCII range. And you enter any character from 0 to 127, it's okay. If you enter any character from 128 to 255, the byte value will store from the back behind. 128 for 128, 128 minus 128. For 128, 128. For 129 minus 127. For 120, 130, it is minus 126. For 131, I'm sorry, for 131 minus 125, like that. In the reverse, it will store up to minus 1. So input stream is capable of reading any characters that are within the range of ASCII. That is what the difference between input output streams and reader writers. Okay. This is a input stream class list of methods. Input stream class is extended from object and implemented from clausable. It's okay. Input stream class is having one constructor that takes no parameter. See, on the top I forgot to write one statement. I forgot to write one keyword here. Input stream class is an abstract class. Tell me. In the programming, we never create object of input stream class directly, because input stream class cannot point to any source by default. You create object of file input stream, you create object of socket input stream, you create object of byte input stream, you create object of character input stream, you create object of some other streams. I mean, there are so many other stream classes exist. If you see the byte array, string buffer input stream, socket input stream, object input stream, pipe input stream, sequence input stream, filter input stream subclasses. And I actually forget about this. These are all various sources from where we can read the data from. Are you getting my point? So these classes are concrete classes. File input stream points to file. Byte array input stream points to byte array. String buffer input stream points to a string, which is enclosed in documentation. Socket input stream will point to socket. Object input stream will point to objects. Pipe input stream, sequence input streams are like that. So these input stream classes are concrete classes. These are all subclasses of input stream class. These are non-abstract classes. These are implemented classes, actual classes we use in our application. To these classes we will create object. But input stream class will act as a parent class to all these classes. Hence this class is declared as abstract. That too, one more important point is why class is declared as abstract. To tell me two reasons. One is if class contains abstract method, then class must be declared as abstract. Yes, in input stream class, read method is abstract. So that input stream class will force every subclass to override or to implement read method according to the requirement. For to read from the file or from the socket or from the object or from the byte array or from the carrier or from the string. The read method, each and every input stream subclass must implement according to their source they need to implement. So how input stream class will force all subclasses to implement read method? By declared as abstract here. So subclasses will implement that method. Because of having abstract method, class is also declared as abstract. Sometimes some abstract classes are declared as abstract without having abstract methods also. Something like, I told you somewhere in the graphical user interface programming, component class, container class. They are the superclass to tens and hundreds of graphical user interface components. But they are not having any visual appearance. You can see button, you can see label, you can see text field, you can see checkbox, you can see read button. You can see scroll bar, horizontal scroll bar, vertical scroll bar, you can see dialog box, panel. You can see different components and containers, but you can't see any component name called component. There is a button, there is a text field, there is a checkbox, read button, label, but there is no component. But component class provides common function to all the component subclasses. Common methods are given by component class, but component classes I don't want to be directly instantiated. Excuse me from instantiating in your program. Please excuse me. So how does it say? By declared itself as abstract. So that is how input stream classes are abstract. It provides common methods to all the input stream classes. Which are methods it want to force subclasses to implement. Such methods are declared as abstract and given. And the only abstract method is read method. Hence, input stream class is having constructor with no parameter because it's not pointing to any source, right? So anyway, we don't create object of input stream class directly. Through a subclass constructor, this superclass constructor will be called. And whenever you create object of file input stream or socket input stream or byte input stream, from those class constructors, from child class constructors, what will be called? The superclass constructor will be called naturally. That is how this input stream class constructor is called. But nowhere in the programming will directly call input stream class constructor directly because this class cannot be instantiated. And what are the methods available in this class? One method available in this class is available. So you see, you create any input stream class object and call dot available. As many number of bytes or characters available in that source, that count it will read and it will return. The available method will return. And suppose, for example, using file input stream class, you create one file input stream class object pointing to some file, and file input stream dot available method if you call. As many number of bytes available in the file, the characters available in the file, that count it will return. And based on your source, if the number of bytes available are available to this available method, then it will return that bytes. But when it is reading from the socket, when it is reading from the stand input, don't know how many bytes are available, right? In such cases, it may not return any value. It may be 0, maybe written or something. And the next close method to close input stream. And these are all not important for us. For us, the important methods are read method with no parameter. We can use read method with byte array with int offset and int length also. Okay, suppose for example, if you want to read many characters from the, like say for example, previously as I told you in the system.in.read, if you want to read completely Surya, single system.in.read method, system.in.read method, the single method call will return only one integer value that will return the first character. Suppose if you want to read complete Surya, and we want to completely read a 5 character string, and we are fixed that we want to read 5 character string or 10 character string from the standard input. So what you will do? You do one thing, you create one byte array b is equal to new byte array of 10 in the system.in.read method. You give that empty byte array. Byte array is having size of 10. And from the standard input, you enter 10 characters up to 10 characters. All the 10 characters ASCII values will be written to byte array. So after getting this, and initially this is empty. Once after the byte array is passed this argument in system.in.read, the byte array is filled with all the characters ASCII values. So this byte array you pass into string class constructor. String str is equal to new string of. String class is having how many constructors? One no parameter constructor, one byte array parameter constructor, one character parameter constructor, one string as a constructor, one string buffer as a constructor, one string builder as a constructor. And the main constructor I am telling in string class. 2-3 other constructors are also there. So you pass that filled byte array into string class constructor, string will be formed. You print the string, you will get Surya's output. And then in the input string class, they provided 2 options. One is if you call read method with no argument, you will be able to read only one single character. If you want to read multiple characters like fixed length, that too, not unlimited characters. If you want to read some 5 characters or 10 characters or 20 characters from your source, you can create one empty byte array and give that byte array's argument. As much size the byte array is, those many characters it will read and it gives it to you. So that's how from the system.in.read also we can read complete strings from the standard input. That facility is there. Usually it will read only one single byte if you use this first method. Reset and skip or not that important. Similarly, output string class write method. As similar as input string class is having read method, output string class is having write method. It will write onto various destinations. File output string class write method will write onto file. Socket output string class write method will write onto socket. Byte array output string class write method will write onto byte array. Like that. Same. The system.out.println you can use with int double cap. This is a hierarchy of input stream classes. File input stream is super. Shit. Okay. Input stream class. This is abstract superclass. Input stream class. Input stream class is having file input stream, byte array input stream, string buffer input stream, socket input stream, object input stream, pipe input stream, sequence input stream. All these input streams are having their own respective sources from where they can read. File input stream will read from the file, byte array input stream will read from the byte array, string buffer input stream will read from the string, socket input stream will read from the socket. Piped input stream and sequence input streams are meant for a different purpose that we'll discuss later on. With the program, we'll see that. But all these input streams are having their own sources to read from. But using these input stream classes, read method, if you read, you will be able to read. You can read only one single byte, but not multiple bytes. You can't read one complete line at a time, or you can't read one buffer 1 KB, 10 KB, 100 KB data at a time. So reading byte by byte. So for example, if there is a text file which is having students' contact information, only student name and student email and student mobile number are written in one text file with name, ampersand, email, ampersand, mobile number. Like that, 1,000 students data exists in a text file. Let us assume. If you want to read 1,000 students, their name, email, mobile number exist in one single student contact details, some student details that txt file. Such a file, if you want to read it for 1,000 into each line, you can't count because how big the student name, we don't know, how big email ID, we don't know. Mobile number is okay, fine, 10 characters, 10 digits, 10 characters, let us assume. 2 ampersand separators for separation, 12. Other than 12, we can't determine the length of the email ID or the student name. Sometimes some users Some student names may be big and some student names may be small. On an average, roughly around, so for each student, you assume 100 characters. Each line consists of 100 into 1000, 1 lakh. 1 lakh characters. Into file input same class read method, if you use to read student details that takes, which is having 1000 student details. If each student detail is having 100 characters into 1000 into 100, so 1 lakh characters. If read method reads, the read method will iterate in the loop for over 1 lakh times. After all, to read 1000 students data. See, you tell me how time consuming it is. Yeah? Reads each and every character. Goes and reads single character, comes to the application, gives the ASCII value, then again go. And there's something like, rhyme stories ఇలా ఉంటుంది అనమాట. వీళ్ళు ఒక్కొక్క ఇటుగా పట్టుకురావడం hectic. If it is a manual job, we cannot do like that. Maybe because of it is a program, it will automatically iterate while loop and it will execute for 1 lakh number of times. We don't know that speed of execution also, but if it is a manual job, it's very hectic. Instead of reading byte by byte, my preference is I would read line by line or I would read buffer by buffer. The two are given here. If you want to read line by line, use data input stream. If you want to read buffer by buffer, you use buffer input stream. While reading line by line from the data input stream, if you want to increment line number, you use line number input stream also. The remaining things are used in compressions, encryption, compression, encryption and encryption, decryption, security programming, compression, decryption, zip files and jar files creations and extractions. There all these classes are used. And this filter input stream classes are not in input stream classes like file input stream or byte input stream or stream buffer input stream or socket input stream. Remember, no. These file, byte array, string buffer, socket, object input streams are having some source from where they can read, but their limitation is they can read only one byte. But from those sources, if you want to read one line or one buffer, then you use club both file input stream with data input stream or buffer input stream. If you clip file input stream with the data input stream, you will be able to read line by line from the file. So the reading will become fast. Same thing if you give file input stream to buffer input stream, you'll be able to read buffer by buffer like 1 KB, 10 KB, 100 KB at a time. So the reading process will become fast. Instead of reading 1 lakh characters, iterating loop for 1 lakh times, read 1 KB. 1 KB means for each student 100 characters I said. 1 KB means 1024 characters. And 10 students data, if you read 1 KB, 10 students data you can read at a time. 1000 students. And within 100 times, you can read 100 times 1 KB. If you read all 1000 students data will come. Otherwise, for 1000 students, 1000 times you read. If you read buffer by buffer within 100 times, if you read line by line, 1000 times, we can read the whole data. Instead of reading 1 lakh characters for 1 lakh characters, executing read method for 1 lakh times. So there's a lot of difference. So from that point of view, if you compare. So to speed up the execution, to improve the performance, we'll use these input streams with a combination of these input streams. That's why these streams are called as filter input streams, a separate hierarchy. But for a filter input stream subclass from input stream, filter input stream subclasses are these classes. Similarly, output stream classes. And with one small program, I'll end up this application. I'll end up this video also. File output stream points to file, socket output stream points to socket, byte array output stream points to byte array, object output stream points to writing onto object. That we'll see in the object serialization and deserialization topic. And I guess for the IO streams also we need some probably 3 to 4 videos plus, maybe 4 plus. Similarly, file, socket, byte array objects, these will write only byte by byte. If you want to write line by line, or if you want to write buffer by buffer, use combination of file output stream with data output stream or buffer output stream or print stream. You can write line by line or buffer by buffer. I want to discuss about more about data input stream in the next topics when we come to the application. Data input stream original name should be data type input stream. And then when I saw the methods of data input stream class, I realized that its actual name and it's supposed to be named. Its supposed name should be data type input stream, not data input stream. But they shortened it as data input stream. Why data input stream? Data type input stream because in the data input stream class, we are having methods called read byte, read short, read int, read long, read float, read double, read char, read boolean, read line. Read line is one of the method, but that method became popular. But remaining methods people don't know unless we refer to AP documentation of data input stream class. The data input stream class is having a read method to read values of different data types. That's why it is named as data input stream. Its original name should be data type input stream, but it is named as data input stream. So anyway, that we'll discuss in the later, in the examples we'll discuss that. Is this clear? With these, you can write byte by byte. With a combination of these classes, you can write line by line or buffer by buffer. So if you want to speed up your application, you use combination of these output streams and filter output streams of classes. Here we'll see one small example on file input stream. Here is one text file I've written called student details.txt that contains student ID 1. Ampersand is the separator between each field. 1 ampersand ABC, that is student name, and abc@gmail.com and 98480123445 mobile number. Second user XYZ, third element 4PQR, fifth MNO. Their email IDs and mobile numbers are given here. Some that is given. So I don't count how many number of characters exist, but roughly around 150 to 200 characters or 300 characters exist. Now you start application. If at all, if you want to use classes from the IO package, you must first import java.io, java.io.star. Import java.io.star. First you import IO package. The next you write down class name as class file input stream demo1. I'm having habit of writing applications with the name 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So students will understand which program to execute first, which program to execute next. So because if they follow the order, they'll get the sequence of all the topics. Topic wise, in the topic wise, the number of applications I'll increase the number from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 like that. And for my convenience. So file input stream demo 1, public static void main, try catch block. Why try catch block? Because in this program, we are using file input stream class to read student details.txt file. To read a file, which input stream I must use? File input stream I must use. File input stream class is having one constructor, and that is not shown here. Only input stream class constructor is shown. File input stream class is having one constructor that takes a string file name as argument, and file input stream class constructor at the end it reports says that throws file not found exception. You please visit file input stream class constructor API documentation. The file input stream class constructor at the end they writes throws file not found exception. So what does it mean? The file input stream class constructor is reporting us whenever you're using me, I may throw file not found exception. Not I'll throw always file not found exception. I may throw file not found exception. When I may throw file not found exception, if the given file name is wrong or if the given file is not available in the system, I may throw file not found exception. That is what file input stream class constructor says. So is that file not found exception? Is it a checked exception or unchecked exception? It's a checked exception. The file input stream class constructor reports a file not found exception, which is a checked exception. If you use such constructor, you must handle the block of code with a try catch block. Try catch block with file not found exception. Read method reports IO exception. And if there are no bytes to read, still if you are trying to read, you will get IO exception or end of the file exception, EOF exception. EOF exception is a subclass of IO exception. Anyway, people don't know about EOF exception exists in Java API. People don't see that. People mostly use only IO exception. But anyway, read method reports IO exception. And thread.sleep interrupted exception. If any other exception which causes other than these expected exceptions, to handle that catch exception, you must write it here. catch exception E, catch flow close, main method class, class. So here what we are doing, using file input sim class, in the constructor we pass file name as argument, student details.txt. So file input sim will point to that file. While first time the read method executes, it will read the first character, and the first character means 1. 1 it will read, its ASCII value will be written. 1 ASCII value, what is the 1 ASCII value? 1 ASCII value is 49. If you run this program, the first I value is 49. That is that one, number 1, numeric 1, ASCII value is 49. 49. Whatever it is. Each character ASCII value will be written. Here we are executing while loop. While I is not equal to -1. What does it mean? You should read 1 byte from the file or 1 character from the file. That character ASCII value should be written. The value will be from 0 to 127 or 0 to 255 max. But not more than that. And if there are if characters are read from the student details.txt, its range may be from 0 to 127 or 0 to 255, but not below or above. Above means Unicode, but not below. Now, how do you check whether there are no characters to read from the file input stream? So file input stream class read method says, if the character is available, I'll return that character's ASCII value. If there is no character available to read it, I'll return -1 in the place of ASCII value. If I return -1, what does it mean? There are no characters available to read from the file. Is what the read method says. So that's why we are checking. If I value is not -1, then convert each I value ASCII value into virtual character and print it. Sleep for 100 milliseconds, some 1/10 of the second. Again read next character. Again check the loop. As long as the character is not -1, keep on continue the loop. Once if it is -1, exit. And then when there are no characters until the file reaches to end, keep on read, print. At the end, you close the file input stream. Catch blocks, main method class are closed. So if you run the program, you will find all these characters are read from the file and displayed on the standard output. Why I'm using sleep method here? Because for every read operation, I am using sleep method. Because if I don't use sleep method, the moment you start the program execution, the moment you run the execution, all the characters are displayed at a time and at once in a single in a single flick, the entire file you will find on the screen. And then the application execution is such a fast, within one single flick of our eye, the whole file will be read and displayed on the screen. If you want to see that the file input stream is reading each and every character and reading character by character and printing character by character, if you want to see that feel, if you sleep, every time it is waiting for 100 milliseconds, at least 1/10 of the second, at least you can, the character printing on the screen will be slow so that you can feel like, it is reading each and every character and printing each and every character. Otherwise, if you don't use program execution so fast, the entire file will appear at a time on the screen. So to get that feel, I use the thread.sleep operation. So in the next topic, what we'll say is we'll see various other types of input stream classes and their various types of input stream class examples we'll see in the next video. So until then, thank you, and for this video, thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.